Something ran beside my truck for 4 miles outside Cayenta, and it was not an animal. I want to get that out of the way up front, because I know what you're going to think. I drove heavy freight for 22 years. I know what a deer looks like at night. I know what a coyote looks like, a stray horse, a drunk guy walking the shoulder. I know every shape that highway makes at 2 in the morning. This was none of them. This was the fall of 2011. I was running a reefer load from Flagstaff up to Cortez, which puts you on US 160 straight across the Navajo Nation in the middle of the night. If you've never driven it, there's nothing out there. No streetlights, no houses for miles, no radio worth keeping on. Just your headlights, the mile markers, and a darkness on both sides of the road that feels older than anything you've got a name for. I'd made that run maybe 30 times. Never had a problem. The locals will tell you not to stop out there at night, and I never asked why, because I never planned on stopping. You hear things at truck stops. Guys talk. Somebody's cousin saw something pacing his rig outside Chinle. Somebody swears a woman flagged him down and her face was wrong. You nod, you finish your coffee, you file it under lot lizards and lack of sleep. A little after 1 in the morning, maybe 15 miles past Cayenta, I caught movement on my right. Low at first, 4-legged, keeping pace right at the edge of my lights, out in the scrub. I was doing 65. Nothing runs 65. Not a dog, not a deer, not a wolf. Nothing on 4 legs in that desert. A pronghorn can push 60 in a sprint for a few hundred yards, and I told myself that's what it was, even though I knew pronghorn don't run at trucks in the dark, and they don't hold that speed for a mile, and then 2 miles. And this thing was holding it easy, effortless, like it was out for a jog. I did what you do. I slowed down. It slowed down. I got off the throttle hard and dropped to 50, and I watched it drop to 50, smooth as cruise control. That's when my gut went cold, because that's not animal behavior. Animals don't match you. Animals bolt, or they stand there and die in your grill. They don't pace you like they're thinking about it. Then it stood up. It didn't stop running to do it. That's the part I need you to understand. It went from 4 legs to 2 legs, mid-stride, without breaking pace, the way you'd shift your bag from one shoulder to the other. And on 2 legs, it got faster. It came up out of the scrub closer to the shoulder, right to the edge of where my lights reached, and I got maybe 2 full seconds of looking at it. It was the size of a man. Thin. Wrong. Thin, like something that had been a man and had most of him scooped out. It had fur or clothes or skin, I couldn't tell you which, some gray-brown color that didn't hold the light right. Its arms were too long, and they didn't swing when it ran. And its head was turned sideways, all the way sideways, facing me, watching me at 60 miles an hour with a face I can only tell you was flat and pale, and had eyes that caught my headlights, the way a dog's do from the back of a dark yard. Orange. Flat orange, like 2 cigarette burns. I put my foot to the floor. 80,000 pounds gross doesn't jump, but I got her up past 70, and for a while, a mile, maybe more, those eyes stayed right there in my mirror glass, level with my door. I could hear my own pulse over the engine. I remember thinking, very clearly, in a voice that didn't feel like mine, do not stop. Whatever happens on this road tonight, do not stop this truck. And then it was gone. No slowing down, no falling behind, nothing in the mirrors. Gone like a channel changing. I'd love to end it there. I can't, because of the rest area. 40 minutes on, up past Mexican water, my hands were still shaking and I had to use the bathroom in a way that wasn't going to wait for Cortez. There's a little rest stop out there, just a gravel pullout, a couple of concrete tables, a vault toilet. 2 other rigs parked, both dark, driver sleeping. Lit by 1 sodium lamp with about 1,000 moths in it. I told myself, 2 minutes. Lock the cab, keep the engine running, 2 minutes. I was back with 1 boot up on the step when the knocking started. 3 knocks. Slow ones. Knuckle hard, deliberate, evenly spaced from the far side of my trailer. The blind side. Knock. Knock, knock. Now, there's people out there at night, sure. Hitchhikers, drunks, guys checking their own load. But every trucker knows the sound of a person messing around a rig, and this wasn't that. This was patient. It was the sound you make when you want someone to come around and look. When you're inviting them. I got in and I locked the door, and the second the lock clicked, the knocking stopped. And in the quiet, from around 15 feet of empty gravel between me and that concrete table, something said my name. Not shouted it. Said it. Ray. My CB handle back then was Red Bull. My name, my actual name, was on nothing. Not the truck, not the manifest sticker, nowhere. And the voice, I'll just say it, the voice was my mother's. My mother was 3 years dead by the fall of 2011. It was her voice, the way it sounded on the phone, a little tired, a little amused, like I'd kept her waiting. It said, "Ray, come see." I put that truck in gear and I pulled out of there with the airline still catching, and I did not look at the gravel, and I did not look at the tables, and I did not look at the mirror until I was a mile gone. When I finally did look, the road behind me was empty, all the way back to where the pullout's lamp was a little orange spark in the black. And standing in the middle of the westbound lane, dead center, in the red wash of my trailer lights, there was a shape. Upright. Arms down. Head sideways. It didn't chase me. It just stood there getting smaller, watching me go, patient as a fence post, and something about that was worse than the running ever was. Like it had wanted to see what I'd do at the rest stop, and I'd done it. And the whole night had been some kind of a look at the merchandise, and it had decided, not this one. Not tonight. I delivered the load at 6 in the morning and sat in the receiver's lot for an hour before my hands would work right. I never told dispatch. I told exactly one person, an old DNA driver named Tom. I'd known for years, at a fuel stop in Farmington a month later. He didn't laugh. That's what got me. Tom laughed at everything. He listened with his coffee halfway up, and then he set it down and told me not to say anything more about it, not out loud, not at night. He said there are things out there that hear their own descriptions. Then he told me one thing to do, and I did it. And I'll pass it along in case you ever find yourself on that road. Don't take the same route home. Ever. If something paces you going north, you come back south a different way, even if it costs you 3 hours. They wait on roads they've seen you on. I ran 160 twice more that winter, because the loads left me no choice. Both times in daylight. Both times with the radio, loud and my eyes forward. And then I bid onto routes up in Wyoming, and never crossed that stretch of desert again in my life. I don't know what it was. I know what the stories say it was, and I know I'm not supposed to say the word, so I won't. I'm 61 now. I've jackknifed on black ice outside Butte. I've had a tire come through my windshield off an oncoming flatbed. Nothing that's ever happened to me on a road weighs what those 3 knocks weigh. It knew my name. 22 years later, that's the piece I still can't fit anywhere. It ran beside me at 70 miles an hour, and it stood in my lights, and it knocked on my trailer like a neighbor, and it knew my name. In a voice it had no business wearing. My grandmother had 3 rules for summer nights, and she never once explained them, and the summer I turned 9, I found out why. That was the summer of 1974, on her place south of Chinle, Arizona. And I am going to tell this the way she would have wanted it told, carefully, and without saying certain things out loud. Every June my mother would drive me down from Albuquerque and leave me with her until school started. My grandmother raised sheep, the way her mother had, on land our family had held longer than there has been in Arizona to hold it in. A little house, a shade arbor, a corral of cedar posts, 2 dogs that were never allowed inside, and a silence at night so complete you could hear the stove tick as it cooled. The rules were these. When the sun goes down, the sheep are counted and penned, and you do not go back out to the corral, not for anything, until it is light. If a dog barks at night, you let it bark. You do not open the door to see why. And the third rule, the one that made no sense to a 9-year-old, If you hear someone calling you from outside after dark, someone whose voice you know, you come, and you wake her, and you do not answer it. Not one word. Not even to say the person's name to her. You point at the door, and you keep your mouth shut. I thought they were old lady rules. The way she had rules about whistling at night, and rules about combing your hair after sundown, and rules about which way you stirred a pot. I followed them because her house ran on her word, and because there was a heaviness to the way she said certain things that a child recognizes long before a child understands. Most of that summer was sweet. I want you to know that, because what people get wrong about that country is they think it is a haunted place. It is not. It is a holy place with some bad things walking through it, which is a different thing entirely, and my grandmother was not a frightened woman. She was the calmest person I have ever known. Remember that. It matters in a minute. In the last week of July, the dogs changed. They were sensible animals, a mother and her grown son, and they had opinions about everything that moved on that land. But that week they stopped patrolling and started standing. Both of them, at dusk, facing the low ridge east of the corral, ears up, absolutely still, like two carvings of dogs. They did not bark at the ridge. That was the strange part. They watched it the way you watch a door you expect to open. My grandmother watched them watch it. And that night she did something she had never done. She brought the dogs inside. The dogs that were never allowed inside came in without being asked twice, and lay down against the door, and did not sleep. She sent me to bed, and I heard her moving around the house for a long time, and I heard a sound I knew from mornings, the little clicking of her stirring something in a bowl, and I smelled cedar smoke, and somewhere in there, I fell asleep. The voice woke me sometime deep in the night. It was my mother's. She was outside, below my window, out by the woodpile, and she was calling me the way she did from the porch back home in Albuquerque. That little two-note song she made of my name. My first thought had no fear in it at all, only joy. She came early, and I was fully out of bed with my hand on the window curtain before the rules landed on me like cold water. Because my mother was 300 miles away, and under the joy, some deeper, older part of me had already noticed what the voice was doing wrong. It was my mother's voice, perfectly, but it had no breath in it. There were no pauses where a person would breathe. It was like a tape of her voice, played through something that did not understand what breathing was for. I did what I was told. I did not answer, and I did not touch that curtain. And I walked through the dark house with my heart hitting my ribs like a fist, and I pointed at the door. My grandmother was already awake, sitting straight up on her cot with her shoes on. She was not surprised. I have thought about that so many times over 50 years. She was already dressed, and she had been waiting, and when I pointed she only nodded, like I had told her the sheep were in. She sat me down next to the stove with a blanket, and she began, very quietly, in her own language, to sing. I cannot tell you what the songs were, partly because it is not mine to tell, and partly because I never learned. I can tell you what they did, which is that they made a kind of wall you could feel with your skin, with the hair on your arms. She sang low, almost under her breath, one song ending and folding into the next, and outside, my mother's voice moved around the house. It called from the woodpile. Then from the corral, though I never heard footsteps cross the yard between. Then from directly outside the east wall, a foot from us, close enough that I could hear that dead, breathless quality with awful clarity, my name, over and over, patient and sweet, sung back at us against her singing. The dogs never barked. They lay against the door with their lips off their teeth in total silence, shaking, the whole night. And my grandmother never stopped, and her voice never shook, not once, and some nights even now, when I cannot sleep. I put myself back beside that stove, just to be near her calm again. She sang until the windows went gray. The voice outside had given up sometime in that last black hour before dawn. I couldn't tell you when exactly. It didn't leave the way a person leaves. There was no sound of going. There was just, at some point, the absence of it, the way a headache is suddenly not there anymore. At full light she stopped, drank her coffee slowly, standing up, looking out at the ridge, and then she took my hand and we walked out to the east side of the house together, and she let me see the yard. She wanted me to see it, I understand that now. She was teaching. Around the whole house, pressed deep into the dust, there were tracks. Bare human footprints, long ones with the toes wrong, spaced too far apart, twice a person's stride. They circled the house the way a coyote circles, and out past the woodpile, in the softer ground, mid-stride, without a stumble or a stop, they changed. Human print, and then paw. A big dog's paw, or a wolf's, continuing on at the same spacing, in the same line, east toward the ridge, until the hard ground took them, and there was nothing more to see. My grandmother looked at the tracks the way she looked at a broken fence, like a chore that had been handled. Then she said the only thing she ever said to me about that night, in English, so I would keep it exactly. It doesn't know you well enough yet. It only knows what you love. That's why we don't answer, granddaughter. Answering teaches it the rest. We penned the sheep together that evening, and the dogs went back outside, and the summer went on and was sweet again. And to a child that was almost the strangest part, how completely life closed back over it, like water over a stone. She has been gone since 1988. I am 60 years old, I live in a city, and I keep exactly one of her rules to this day, in an apartment 11 floors above any dust that could hold a footprint. If a voice I love calls to me from somewhere, it should not be from a dark parking lot, from a hallway after midnight, from outside any door I cannot see through. I do not answer it. I go quiet, and I wait, and I let it prove itself with breath. Because she was right, and I have never forgotten the lesson under her lesson. Love is a door. The things that walk out there know it is the biggest door in a person. And they cannot make your mother's pauses, or her breath, or her patience, but her voice alone, the bare sound of it, they can put that on the way you or I put on a coat. 50 years on, I still sleep with a radio playing, not for company, so that no voice in my home is ever the only voice in it. Okay, so, the first thing you need to know about me and Dev is that we are exactly the kind of idiots who hear the words, "Don't hunt that unit. People see weird stuff up there," and take it as a recommendation. That's important context. Nobody snuck up on two innocent guys here. We drove 9 hours toward the weird stuff, on purpose, with snacks. This was 3 years ago, October, an over-the-counter elk tag in southeastern Utah. Way down, in that empty corner, where the map starts running out of town names, Dev found the spot on some forum. A guy on there said, and I'm quoting from memory, "Gorgeous country, elk everywhere, but I won't camp there again." And we were like, more elk for us, my man. We literally toasted him with gas station energy drinks, genius stuff. Day 1 was genuinely the best hunting day of my life. Cold, clear, elk sign everywhere, fresh rubs, fresh tracks. We glassed a herd at last, light about a mile from where we wanted them, made a plan for morning, hiked back to camp, ate chili, talked garbage, went to bed, happy. If the story ended there, it'd be a beer commercial. Day 2 is when the math started going wrong. Little things first, and I know every one of these has a normal explanation. That's what makes it work on you. It's a system. First thing, total silence. And I mean total. Day 1, that valley was loud. Birds, squirrels doing their car alarm thing, elk talking on the far ridge. Day 2, it was like somebody hit mute on the whole drainage. We stood there at sunrise listening to absolutely nothing, and Dev goes, "Pressure change." And I went, "Yep, pressure change." And neither of us believed it, and we went hunting anyway because, again, idiots. Second thing. Mid-morning we cut a trail of the herd we glassed, followed it maybe 2 miles, and walked into a kill site. Fresh cow elk, and I've packed out a decent number of animals. I know what predators do, and I know what people do. And this was neither. Nothing was eaten. That's what stopped us. She was just, and I don't have a better word for this, arranged. Folded up too neat, legs tucked under her like a deer in a Christmas decoration, chin flat on the ground, facing back down her own trail. The way you'd pose something, for somebody to find. No blood, and it hadn't bled out somewhere else and been dragged. There was no drag line, no scavenger tracks, no ravens. And ravens will find a dead elk before the elk is fully done being surprised about it. Nothing had touched her. In country where a free protein delivery gets swarmed in hours, nothing had touched her. Like everything else on that mountain already knew the rule, and the rule was, not this one. Don't come near this one. Dev didn't say pressure change that time. He took one long look and said, "We're not hunting this drainage." And I did not argue. And I want the record to show that at this point we did do one smart thing. We moved. 3 drainages over, big rocky spur between us and that valley. Felt better immediately. Birds again, wind again, normal mountain noises. We even laughed about it at dinner. Arranged, Dev kept saying. Who arranges an elk? That night I woke up because the fire was wrong. We'd banked it properly, and it should have been coals, and instead it was throwing shadows, which means something had stirred it up, except neither of us had. And that's not what got me out of the bag. What got me out of the bag was the footsteps. 2 feet, not 4. I grew up around livestock, and I've had every animal you can name walk through my camps, and 4 feet make a rhythm you know in your bones without ever having thought about it. This was 2. Slow, heel first, patient. Crunch, crunch, walking the edge of the firelight in a big circle, just past where I could see. Around and around. Not coming in, not leaving. Circling like it was winding something up. I sat there with my back against a log and my rifle across my knees doing that thing where you're bargaining with reality. It's a hiker. At 11,000 feet. 6 miles from the trailhead. Barefoot. Because I could hear that too by then, the little gritty details of bare skin on frost, and I hate that I know that's what it was. But there's no version of a boot that sounds like that. And then it stopped, out past the fire, east side of camp, and the whole mountain held its breath with it, and it said, Marcus. My name. In Dev's voice. Perfect, by the way. Not close, not a good impression. It was Dev's voice, with the little rasp he gets at the end of a long day, the exact way he says my name when he's about to ask me to do something dumb. Marcus. Friendly. Warm, even. Come here, in a single word. And I was halfway to answering, my mouth was actually open, when my brain did the one useful thing it did that whole trip and reminded me that Dev was 4 feet to my left, in his bag. Asleep. I could hear him breathing. I have never in my life experienced anything like the 10 seconds after that. Both things were true at once, and my head just would not hold them. Dev asleep beside me, and Dev's voice standing out there in the dark, past the fire, on 2 bare feet, wearing my best friend's voice like a hand-me-down jacket. It said it again. Marcus. Come here, man. Closer this time. No footsteps in between. The first one had been out by the big rock, 20 yards. This one was inside 10. Nothing had moved between the two. No crunch, no breath, no shift of gravel. It was simply nearer. The way the end of a movie is suddenly nearer when you fall asleep in the middle. And then, from the dark, in Dev's voice, relaxed and easy and pleased with itself, it started to laugh. I don't remember making a decision. I put my boot into actual Dev's ribs, and I had him awake with a hand over his mouth, and my face saying everything, and to his eternal credit, this man woke from a dead sleep into total silence, read the situation off my expression alone, and started pulling his boots on without one word. We fed that fire to a size that violated several federal guidelines, and we sat back to back against the log pile with our rifles, until the sky went gray, and the laugh never came again, and the steps never came again. And that was somehow worse, because we had no idea where it had gone, both of us just staring out at the tree line getting light, and every single tree looked like it had just moved a half second before you looked at it. We broke camp in 11 minutes. I've timed teardown since for fun with coffee. Our best is 26. 6 miles out we passed maybe 100 yards from the mouth of the first drainage, the one with the elk, and I'm going to tell you the last thing, and then I'm done. Because I've only told this whole thing twice, and both times my hands did what they're doing right now. Down in that drainage, in the dawn quiet, something whistled. 2 notes. Down up. The exact 2 notes. Dev whistles across a parking lot when he's found the truck. Dev, who was walking directly in front of me, close enough to touch. Neither of us said one word for 6 miles. We loaded the truck like it was a getaway car. And as we pulled out onto the forest road, doing about double the posted limit, Dev finally spoke. 1 sentence, both hands on the wheel, eyes forward. And I think about it every October when the tags go on sale and I go pheasant hunting in Kansas instead. He said, "It waited by the meat, man. It knew we'd have to walk back past the meat."